Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Let's get into it. Arkansas traveling to Kentucky. And listen, this is what we're going to talk about, right? I mean, I still think it's a wildly anticipated game. I know Arkansas is struggling. It is worth noting we are recording before Kentucky plays Tennessee, but Kentucky is not going to have Lamont Butler, so there's actually a reasonable chance that Kentucky enters on a 3-game losing streak. Let me start with this, okay? So there's going to be a lot of people that aren't Arkansas fans that listen to this pod. I do want to ask you this: so there's obviously a lot of negativity, right? But I think so much of it, because of the way things ended at Kentucky, it's all centered towards Cal, right? And, you see pictures of Bud Walton Arena or games, whatever. And what you have told me, what, our buddy Curtis Wilkerson, who works for you, has told me is like, dude, it's so much bigger than just a 10-game stretch for the basketball program. So for people that don't follow Arkansas on a day-to-day basis, and for the people that do follow Arkansas, I apologize that we're going here, but like what is going on with this athletic department? Because everything that you tell me, et cetera, this isn't a John Calipari thing. This isn't a Arkansas is 1-5 or 1-6 in the SEC thing. It's so much bigger, and I think it adds context to why people see just some frustration, from the Hogs fans and stuff.
Yeah, I've felt this way for a while, even before the Razorback basketball season started, that there just seems to be a growing disconnect from the common Razorback fan to the athletic department in general. Arkansas is a unique place, and for those of you who are listening, you may say that's cliche to say, but no, it truly is, because it's the only school, really, besides maybe like a Nebraska, that has one major school in it. And even Nebraska, I guess, has Creighton.
Yeah. What about Connecticut, dude? Come on, well, University of Connecticut, man.
Well, listen, and guess what? Y'all are really good, and then the basketball side of things too, and it's a big deal. But you're up in the Northeast; it's all the same to me up there, anyways. But yeah, it's in, at least in Arkansas. There's no other major school. There's no pro team. There's nothing within. I think the closest Power 4 campus is Stillwater, and that's 2.5-3 hours away. So it's it. Arkansas is it, and that's why fans have always taken it as kind of their own personal pride that they've had. Because when the Razorbacks are good, the state's good. The economy's better. I mean, everything just really revolves, as weird as it is to say, and maybe as lame as it is to say, but a lot of it revolves around the success of the Razorbacks and what attention gets brought into, because we know sports can really bring a lot of attention into things that you never heard of. I would have never even known that Gonzaga was a school if it wasn't for the NCAA tournament. There's just a lot of that. But over time, there's just been a lot of that's been going on. I think the football side of things, the Sam Pittman era really becoming boring is the best way to put it, of not good. They were a little bit better this year, but still not great. Should have been better, but yet he still gets a 6th year, heading into a 6th year where the schedule gets tougher. Fans wanted to change after a year ago. They wanted to change again this year, and it didn't happen. And then the Cal element was still shocking. I mean, it was the most incredible college basketball story there was, of him coming to Arkansas, and there was excitement surrounding it. But even leading up into it, I think fans got so used to the way Eric Musselman marketed himself and marketed the school and like had fun with fans. And, like Muss would be out there in Razorback baseball games in the hog pen waving a flag in front of him. I mean,
he sure
was.
And
it's no shot at Cal. It's just how Muss is. Most coaches are probably not like that. But I think fans kind of got spoiled with that. And then they're kind of like, we don't know anything about these players. We don't get to hear from them from the media side. They never do press conferences. Cal very seldom does press conferences. It just didn't seem like there was a way to get to know each other. And when the team started struggling a lot, it really took a turn of like, usually if you know somebody and they're struggling, you're more apt to defend them.
Of course.
But if you don't know them and you don't feel connected to them, when they start struggling, you become resentful. Because now it becomes more of, it's not you in Arkansas. It's you're taking my Arkansas team and you're making them bad. So I just think that there's just been a lot of intricacies, and I could go on and on about this, building up and compiling to really make Razorback fans feel like there's just a lot of uncomfortable tension within the state and the athletic program that hasn't been there before.
Yeah, it was interesting. I had DJ Wagner on this show, on my show in the preseason, and that was a lot of the reception was like, oh, we just haven't heard from him. And DJ's a great kid, and we're excited to watch him, and we just didn't know a lot about him other than what we read and we heard on shows like yours, like mine, whatever. I actually think that leads, in a sort of negative way into a perfect, kind of follow up there, which is, and this is something I actually don't know, is how do people in Arkansas feel about Cal, like right now? And because I think there's two sides that I see, which is I don't think Cal's done anything wrong to make people dislike him. I think certainly if the team was, I think they're 12-8 or something like that right now. I think if they were, 18-2 would be a different conversation. But I bring it up because on the one hand, I don't think Cal's necessarily done anything wrong. But I guess my counterpoint to that would be he doesn't have the built up goodwill either. And that's kind of what I was thinking about. And I've used this example a million times on my show, John, but I remember I live in LA, and I remember when LeBron got to LA and one of his first press conferences, people were kind of like, hey, one of the reporters like, well, what do you think, your legacy would mean if you win a championship with the Lakers? And LeBron kind of looked at the camera and was like, my legacy's built. Like I remember thinking at the time, like, this guy doesn't get it. Like, people in LA could not care less what you did in Cleveland, Miami, whatever. You're a Laker now, and it's different. And I don't think Cal has had that moment, or at least not that I've perceived that he's said something wrong or done something wrong. But also to your point, like, it's like, even at Kentucky, it's like, well, people might be mad at him, but damn, that dude won us a natty about 10 years ago, and he made a bunch of Final Fours. So anyway, I'm stealing the spotlight from you. You're the guest. So let me just like how do people feel about Cal? And it might not even be negative. It might be, but it's just like, I'm just curious because hasn't done anything wrong. But to your point, I don't necessarily feel like he's done a lot to like super ingratiate goodwill either.
And he hasn't. And that's what makes it tough. And again, I want people to be clear. I'm not blaming Cal. I'm not saying Cal just doing this wrong and this wrong. It's not that. I'm just saying that coaches are different. Personalities are different. And I kept making the comparison that when Cal was coming into Arkansas, Arkansas didn't hire a college basketball coach. They hired a celebrity that just happens to be a college basketball coach. And that does not exist in Arkansas. I love my state. I love it here. But we don't have people like him here in Arkansas. Like the biggest personalities and the biggest iconic legend people from Arkansas, they don't all live here still. Like Jerry Jones lives in Dallas. Bill Clinton doesn't still live here. John Daly does, but he's also elsewhere. Like just the big names that you have. But John Calipari is a guy who walked in accomplishing literally everything that you could accomplish. And it's such a new thing. Arkansas, like when they hired Muss, it was a great hire. Everyone was pumped up and excited about it. He was coming from Nevada. It wasn't like he was coming from some blue-blooded program where he won a national championship already. So there was still some energy to be there. Same thing with most coaches that they've hired. But Cal's the first one where it's like, holy crap. Like this guy is like, what else he's the greatest in the league right now. He's got the best resume that you could ever have. What can we expect? And I don't think anyone expected this. And so people feel, at least in my opinion, they feel still okay with Cal. There's nobody that's saying Cal needs to be fired. Cal sucks. He's washed, anything. And I think maybe that is a defense mechanism a lot of Razorback fans have because that's all they've heard from Kentucky fans for months is just he's washed, he sucks, he's no good. So maybe they're just trying to not let them be right and not admit it. But I think it's also like, okay, Cal, this is your one bad year. Like this is it. You tried a risk. You signed less players, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Don't do it again. And it better not be like this again. And I think that's how people are going to be. And it's so even in next year they have Arkansas now officially 2 McDonald's All-Americans coming in next year. They got the NIL. They're going to have talent. But if Cal has another year next year like this year and the way that it's gone, Razorback fans are going to be like, get this guy out now because there's no reason for it. It's one thing to be Razorback fans were hoping for greatness, obviously, winning a championship. That's what everyone hopes for. But I think Razorback fans would have still been like, okay, go to the tournament. But to be the second worst, maybe worst, one of the worst teams in the SEC this year was not on anyone's radar. Can't happen again. And so a lot of that goodwill is done. Next year has to be the time where he turns it around and gets back to the Cal that everyone's expecting him to be.